Hello, everybody. Welcome to Choir Practice. This is Profiling Evil. I got Skylar here tonight. Skylar, how you doing? I haven't seen you for a couple of days.
Good. How's it
Good.
going?
Doing well. Good to be back home and good to be back in the saddle. And to everyone out there, thank you so much for jumping on. To our mods, thank you. We just really appreciate the way you do things and the way you keep things moving. And to everybody that's piling in, thank you. It's just really going to be an interesting night as we talk through the Suzanne Morphew case and Barry Morphew's day one in this preliminary hearing and presumption great hearing. This is a day that I kind of predicted, if you remember, Skylar, that we were going to see once the trials started a different side. And we talk about this a lot when we talk about people and the three personas in their lives. This public persona that we all put on, where we try to make sure everybody sees our best side and thinks highly of us and thinks we're really nice people. But then we all have this private side. And I used to equate it to like guys that I work graveyard shift with. I could tell them things that I was fearful of or troubled by that I wouldn't tell anybody else. But that's where I had this private side of my life, and we all have that. And then sadly, but realistically, we all have a secret side of us. And I remember talking to a guy and trying to understand and grapple as I was learning this art and science of profiling, what that secret side really meant. And he gave me the coolest analogy. I want to just start off with that. He said, publicly, hand washing. We go in the restroom and we use the restroom. If there's somebody in there, boy, we always make sure that we go over and wash our hands and we dry off and we head out. But what happens when nobody's around? What do we do when there's nobody watching? And that is this thing called the secret side of our lives. And today we saw pieces of that. But I'm sure there's going to be tons of questions about that and lots of things to talk about. Oh, Michelle Leonardo, thank you so much for the Dr. Pepper Fund. That is so kind. And Annie, I am so glad to see you. 10 to Life, folks. If you haven't subscribed to Annie and 10 to Life, I hope you do, because I think some of the choicest opportunities we've had to collaborate with other YouTubers, Skylar, has been with Annie. And Annie, I don't know, maybe you could put in there, I know that there's big things happening in your life soon. I don't know that you even talk about it, but just know that we're always hoping and shouting out for you. So thanks. But what do we got going on, Skylar?
So tonight is Ask Mike Anything. So for those of you who haven't been on an Ask Mike Anything before, we're going to do our best. Tyler and I, Tim's out tonight, but Tyler and I will be doing our best to pop up questions for Mike to answer. They can be anything. We are anticipating a lot of Suzanne Morphew questions, Summer Wells, all sorts of questions tonight. But you can ask, what's Mike's favorite dessert? What's Mike's favorite thing to do in his pastime? There's no real off limit questions for this. And with your analogy of washing your hands, you know how I feel about airports. I don't. If you wear your shoes in an airport, those shoes are never allowed in my house again. And now that gives me a whole new feeling toward the people that come out of the stall in the men's room and walk straight out the door. And for those of you that don't know, the stall is only used for one thing in a men's room. So that kind of ruined my day. So anyway, so we have Ask Mike Anything tonight. We have a special surprise happening a little bit later that we'll talk about.
Big stuff. Yeah.
So keep paying attention, but I'm going to grab as many questions as I can. It's not required, but super chats will be given a priority for obvious reasons there. But other questions will be taken. Somebody
Hey,
asked, what about
thanks,
airports?
Tracy. That was nice to see that. And yeah, people may want to know more about your little hang up about airports. But folks, what I did for those of you that just joined in is we started out talking about tonight was the perfect example and something that I actually predicted would happen, not knowing exactly what that would be. But in every trial like this is where we see the gloves come off and the dirty laundry aired. And sadly, today we saw it right out of the chutes. Holly W., thank you so much. I can't read that, Skylar. So
Yeah, I got it. So it says, thanks for all you do. Thank you, Holly. Regarding summer, how do we fix generational abuse? Any thoughts? What a
boy,
great question.
Holly, isn't that the truth? I mean, when you look at things like intergenerational poverty, the challenge that we face in things like that, intergenerational abuse, we really worry. In the Zion Society, we worried that the children 30 years ago that were abused would become abusers. And in that particular case, the victims were women. In many cases, women are less prone to become predators later on than boys for some reason. And this is only my professional opinion, not something backed up by any kind of studies, but that's been my personal opinion. But what a great question. How do we stop it? And you know, changing behaviors, especially learned behaviors, is really tough.
Yeah. Well, here's a good one, and just so everyone knows, we're going to be doing rapid fire. There's a lot of you here. There's going to be a lot of questions, like we said, regarding the Morphew case, everything. So don't be offended by short answers, but we want to get to as many as we can, and we hope throughout the night as we answer questions that it'll kind of compound into one big answer.
Yeah, and I just got a couple of texts from friends from Salida who are listening in that are really, you know, tuned into the heartbeat there. And so shout out to all of them and to all of you around the world that have been watching this case. I mean, I think back how far back we started looking at the Suzanne Morphew case.
So here's a question: who is Sheila that Suzanne called and talked to about divorce? Sorry.
Yeah, Sheila remained very quiet for a long time. We learned more today about the friendship that she and Suzanne had, and the number of tweets and texts, and not tweets, texts and instant messages that they shared. Everything that I can tell that has been publicly released is just a close friend. And, you know, we did receive a lot of information over the months and last year from family. But again, you folks know my style. Unless it's been publicly addressed, I just don't share it. So
yeah,
there we go. Julia Rock. Thank you. Sir, for 30 years, that becomes public if somebody else puts it up.
We're gonna rip the Band-Aid with this question just really quick. Do you think that Suzanne will be made the villain because she had an affair? Victim blaming or victim shaming?
Absolutely, that will be a strategy of the defense, and that is what's so irritating to all of us. And I want to talk about that in more detail tonight as we go on. But again, I think back to all the times I stood in a witness box being hammered by the defense. And whenever they started hammering me about things that had nothing to do with the elements of the crime, I knew that we had a strong case. And I want to just remind everybody of that. If you could break down the witness or the victim and somehow change and get people not focusing on the elements of the crime, you might be home free.
Yeah, I think something to think of is an affair doesn't make murder legal if murder was the case.
There you go.
Anyway, Tracy, thank you. Do you think the prosecution case is strong? Makes me nervous after you talked about the defense lawyers.
Hey, I'll tell you what, Eitan and Nilsson are go-getters, and they've come out swinging, and they're going to continue to swing. They have proven histories of being able to find chinks in the prosecution armor and get cases reduced down or even dismissed. Now, that said, and I want to call it like it is, Linda Stanley is no wilting flower, and you've seen her on this channel. You've heard us talk to her. And I want to point you back to that press conference when she said, "This is my job. I wouldn't have filed if I didn't think I could win this case."
Here's another one. Did the Mormon family, I think this is a do we think, or what do we feel? Did the Mormon family know about Jeff? How about the girls?
Yeah, interesting question. We know that law enforcement didn't know about Jeff, and thank you for just keeping it at Jeff. Think about what his family's going through. I mean, they're victimized by his stupidity, and in this case, Suzanne's stupidity of having this affair, if in fact it's all true, and everything points that it is. But thanks for just keeping it, Jeff. And folks, if you would, just keep it to Jeff as we talk tonight, because imagine, again, those kids and that wife who are having to somehow pick up all the pieces from all the garbage that's created in their life. But I think that from all accounts today in testimony that was given, that even her closest friends didn't know that this relationship was going on. And so I would suggest that the family didn't either. And I don't believe from Melinda or Andy, and having talked to both of them one-on-one, or Tommy, who's been on the show many times, that any of them had any idea this was going on.
Caroline Murray, do you really believe Barry didn't know about Suzanne's affair?
That's really interesting. So then you start looking at behavior, and you think, then if in fact all these allegations are true, what was the triggering event? And this is something that you'd want to go right back to and say, was it this discovery of this? Was it the control that Suzanne talked about in the tweets that the messages that we heard about today, where she said even down to her clothing, he was controlling that? Those kinds of things all start to just behaviorally pile on and really make you look in different directions. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah. Here's one in, I think, regards to the comment I made and off what you said. On the opposing end, how often do we hear the defense saying having an affair doesn't make you a murderer?
Nor does it justify a murder.
Yeah.
Great comment, Object. Thank you. And thanks for that kind donation.
I like the name. I object.
Yeah.
We like awesome. That's the important part in the justice system, is not picking a side out of the gate, right?
Exactly.
Let's see here. How would law enforcement not know about the affair? They spoke with this Jeff guy. They just didn't let us know.
Yeah, Beth, that's a great question. And really what we learned today in the testimony that came out, and again, I only talk about stuff that has come out, not stuff that I might have learned over the last year or so. But law enforcement learned 6 months into the investigation about this, and they talked about that today when the FBI started to uncover more information and started to look for Jeff and then ultimately find him. It's troubling to think of the fact that he, in self-preservation mode, immediately started deleting his accounts after this happened to Suzanne. He said, well, I didn't want her children to be embarrassed by it. No, he didn't want himself and his family to implode because of his decisions. But nonetheless, he started to do that. But I think that they were pretty clear about that. 6 months in, they figured that out.
Okay. Tyler had one about, I think, hold on, Tyler. Maybe you'll need to type to me what you're thinking there. I might not know exactly what you're referring to. Let me pop this one up while Tyler types that to me. I have my own theory. This is a good thought-provoking one, everybody. I have my own theory, but why do you think the affair is so heavily stressed to discredit her character or to plant the seed of other possible suspects?
Yeah, well, Megan, I mean, I think you're right on target about what's the purpose. The purpose is to redirect the thinking off of the elements of murder, which is what he's facing in this case. And if the defense can successfully say, but what if a fingerprint that was recovered or DNA of some sort that was recovered pointed to somebody else, a sex offender or something else? Or what if someone else was responsible? Well, that's always a criminal case. So what we have to do is look at the probability of who would be responsible and the evidence that the state will undoubtedly present tomorrow and in the next 2 days that follow later this month.
Okay. And then yeah, we did clarify. So we talked about the affair, Jeff and Suzanne being a stupid thing to do, right? Like, let's clarify what we mean by that. Not we're not calling them stupid people, but what did you mean by saying it was
Oh,
a
thank you
stupid
for
thing?
doing that, folks. I would never suggest that. The fact that they allowed themselves to get into this position, in my opinion, was stupid. To not find a way to get out of a relationship if you want to start a new relationship, and I don't know. I mean, marriage is hard. My poor wife has put up with it for 43 years with me, and it's a hard thing, and there are a lot of rocky points and a lot of incredibly cool points. But making dumb decisions like going out and seeking solace or companionship in someone outside of the relationship is dangerous, and frankly, that led to some problems. But I want to be so clear: it doesn't change the elements of murder. Doesn't change the responsibilities. It doesn't change the fact that decisions like that are not justification for homicide.
Yeah, I think the thing here is we're not calling them stupid people. I think we understand the feeling of stress that she was under, the controlling life she was living under, right? Under a lot of stuff came out today about Barry being controlling over the years. And so I think people are just uh, sympathizing with her to the effect that she had a release mentally. So, but regardless, it's okay to make goofy decisions. We all do it. We're not calling anybody stupid in this thing. El Verbena, I feel the affair gives a motive that Barry could have got rid of her. Crime of passion. Don't you think so?
Yeah, the interesting thing about crime of passion is then you don't cover it up and lie and say it never happened. Um, that's always been the thing I've found so interesting about a crime of passion. Then you have to have a crime of compulsive decision making to keep this thing secret and hidden. There's a big difference between I came home and I found a burglar in my house, or I found someone in my house and I reacted. But we can get into a behavioral discussion on that, and I'll just put it to you simply, folks. As someone who looked at crime for a lot of decades, every criminal act is first thought out up here. Things don't just happen. The devil doesn't just make you do it. It's acted out first in your mind before it's ever physically acted out. It's made okay here before it's physically acted out. So there's more to these things than just the devil made me do it. Now, that doesn't change the fact you could have been really mad about something that happened and just decided, I got to solve this problem. We see it in cases where family members find out about someone assaulting their children and they immediately fly off the handle. But something up here first said it was okay to do that.
So, Carla, wonder whose DNA is on the glove box. I saw
Man,
on Annie's channel that the owner of the DNA has a 3-count essay. What does that mean?
SA is in sexual assault charges. So yeah, there's a lot more to learn about that. We don't know exactly what's going on there. What the origin of that could have been. It could have been somebody that they know. It could have been somebody at the local car dealership where they had work done. Could have been a burglar sneaking through at night, or it could have been a predator that took her in the night. And that's why we see the defense entering something like that in.
Yeah. Do you think the affair was the reason they sealed?
So, yeah, you know what, Matt? I think you're right on. As I've weighed why this arrest affidavit stayed sealed for so long, I think that was a bombshell waiting to drop, and they needed time for Jeff's family and probably the Morphew family to know that it's coming. At least that's what I would suspect the prosecution and the defense to do, is somehow make sure that the family knew before it was publicly revealed.
Thank you, Valerie.
Oh, thanks, Valerie. That's so nice.
If you have a question, get it in there and we'll be looking for it and we'll try to pop it up for sure.
Yeah, the timeline I thought was pretty interesting too that came out today, and maybe some questions will pop up about that. But just keep in mind, the prosecution is going to be able to show, otherwise they wouldn't have brought it up, that they believe that the last communication with Jeff was May 9th at 3:30-ish in the afternoon, 3:31, I think. But that Suzanne was alive at 3:31 on Saturday. By 4:30 in the morning, her phone is pinging 10 miles east of their home, and yet Barry's saying 30 minutes later he's leaving or sleeping in her room. And the prosecution's going to be talking about the fact that he was destroying evidence in their story scenario between those early morning hours of 0200 and 0430 to 5 when he leaves for Denver. That was really important that came out today. Probably one of the biggest ahas that came out for me. And the fact that they had collected all of the evidence from the vehicle and all of the sensor data on the vehicle showing that the doors were being opened and other things.
So Roxanne would like to know, or she says, the report I read this morning said that the affair lasted 2 years, over which time she saw him 6 times. Is this true?
Don't know what's true or not, Roxanne. I know that that's what was reported, that it was pretty plutonic in the early stages, that it became more involved as time went on, and that I saw the same thing, that potentially 6 times they got together in different locations. Whether there's more or not, I don't know.
There has to be traffic cams or street views, don't you think?
Yeah. Well, you know what? Ring doorbells, all kinds of things capture stuff, and it just is a matter of amassing the route that someone would have traveled, and then somehow inventorying all of the possible CCTV scenarios that could be out there, and there are a bundle of them.
I'm hanging for Linda, IAC, to do a video.
There you go,
Oh,
Matt.
it's a crime. Okay, there we go.
Yeah. Thanks, Matt.
Excuse me, everybody. Let's see. Did he plan it way beforehand and have the daughter sent away that weekend?
So interesting question, Bilberry. That's a great one. Don't know. I mean, we're going to see this unfold and learn more. I mean, there were some really interesting things that were picked up today. I don't know if you caught that on the spy pen, that there were arguments about money, that there were arguments and suggestion through texts and other things that the marriage is over and I'm going to get a divorce as soon as the youngest daughter is out of the house, which we knew was this summer when she graduated, that there were lots of different kinds of things being flung back and forth. So could there have been planning? That's what we'll wait and see what the DA comes up with.
I'm assuming the prosecution team has serious evidence if they charged him with first-degree murder without the body.
I'm with you, Mama Bear. Prosecutors like to win, and they like to have wins in their check column. And I don't think we would be here if they didn't have a strong case.
Here's an interesting psychology profiling question. Mike, is this worse for Barry or Suzanne, the affair?
So I think this is just distraction and noise. And in the court, it's less distracting and less noise than it is to you and me, folks, that are upset by what has happened and come out. But again, this is a powerful swing by the defense to get this out. And of course, the prosecution brought it up. So they're not running from the fact that this happened, which is really good too.
Thank you, Navy Vet. So Navy Vet says Barry had the most to gain from Suzanne's disappearance. She wouldn't sign papers giving him control over her inheritance and money, so he had to come up with another option.
Yeah, thanks, Navy Vet. Interesting comment. We do know that there was some resistance, and that came from Andy to us on Profiling Evil, that there was discussion surrounding the inheritance and having that go to the house rather than go to a cannabis farm in Indiana and some other things that Barry was suggesting would be a good way to spend it. So it was a way for her to secure that money and get it into the house and take care of things there. Interesting comment. Thank you.
So everybody, we are doing an Ask Mike Anything at this moment. We've been diving into a lot of Morphew, Suzanne Morphew, which is great. We're not telling you what to ask, but please feel free to ask any type of questions, other cases, anything, personal life, profiling stuff, investigative stuff. Where can I get up to date with this case?
Hey, Tricia, just go to our playlist and you can start back at ground zero when we tear apart all of the alibi possibilities that Barry had early on and talk about what is probable and what isn't, and follow that through. There is probably a lot of binge watching you could do to get caught up with where we are today. And hey, folks, thanks for jumping on. Please, hit the subscribe button while you're on. We just would love to have you as part of the family here. And we'd love to have your influence on what we do here. And thanks everybody for taking the high road on your comments. I saw a lot of pretty rough comments today out there. So
Kellyanne Garber would like to know if the daughters will have to testify.
I would think that the prosecution's going to be pretty careful about doing that. This is the hearing when we would hear it, though, because what generally will happen is these are the hearings that the gloves kind of come off, and defense attorneys and prosecutors may say some things that they wouldn't dare say in front of a jury, where they might offend somebody who they want to agree with them later on. And so sometimes we see a little more aggression in the prelim than we see in the actual trial. But I'd be surprised if they end up on the stand.
Yeah. And another great way to keep up, let's see, sorry, I'm trying to find where I left off on some of these super chats. Another great way to keep up with what's going on, everybody, is following Lauren Scharf on Twitter.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, Lauren was great. We have texted back and forth all day long, and when she would tweet something, I would send her an email or a text and say, what about this? In fact, I still didn't, we didn't get an answer on this, but when the question came up about the note inside the helmet that was found saying this is who the helmet belongs to and the phone number, I wanted to know if that was printed off of a computer or handwritten, and if it was handwritten, whose handwriting was it in? Because that all of a sudden became a really important piece of evidence to me.
Yeah. So thanks, Darth Misfit. So they'd like to know what your thoughts on Dawn's combo with the interview room, and then wholeheartedly agree about the airport shoes. See, airport shoes are no bueno. So go ahead.
That's great. Hey, the interesting thing is Chris and I have completely different styles and approaches to these kinds of cases. I haven't watched all of that. I don't know what has happened in that. I have made a lot of comments about Dawn and my opinions of Dawn early on. I know that I really paid close attention to the I think they're called the interview panel or something like that, which are professional psychologists who have made some determinations. But yeah, that's about all I know about that.
So Laurie Smith would like to know, so she asks, why would Suzanne record a conversation of her and her lover? Maybe I'm confused.
So the spy pen was voice activated, Laurie. Very well could have been a mistake. May have been she didn't even realize she left it on. She originally, by testimony that came out today, purchased it because she believed that Barry might be having an affair, which they say is not the case. I think both prosecution and defense have now said that. But because it's voice activated, it very well could have been that it just picked up her conversation.
Activated.
Yeah.
Tina, thank you. I'm a pepper. You're a pepper. We're peppers too. Thank you for all you do, Mike. Dr. Pepper Fun.
There we go. I got my Dr. Pepper. Hey, and by the way, make sure you stick around at 7 o'clock when we shift gears, because we're going to be talking about a new case We're expecting Adventures with Purpose to show up in my basement any minute now, and we're going to be going out on a 2 or 3 day excursion together, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. But our friends at Dr. Pepper have really taken care of us on looking into this case for a couple of families that have reached out and asked for help. So thanks, Tina. That's pretty cool.
Links are in the description for the video that we're doing next. Sorry. Oh, I'm getting
for the
over
live
a cold.
that we're gonna do.
I'm getting over a cold, so my brain's catching up with my mouth a little bit here. Let's see. We have a special guest that just joined us that we wanted to bring on for a minute, right, Mike?
Absolutely. Now, folks, this is interesting because a family member, a Profiling Evil family member, got up at 4 o'clock this morning and went and camped out on the steps of the courthouse in Chaffee County so that she could watch the trial today, the hearing today. She participated in the search a year ago when we helped with that search of Andy's army that we sent out. And I just asked her to take a couple minutes and jump on with us, Skylar. So let's bring her in. And Gabby, let me just introduce you to the world real quick. And everyone, this is Gabby. Gabby, thanks for taking a minute. You have had a long day. Why on earth would you get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go listen to this hearing?
Well, Suzanne's case I live in Colorado, and Suzanne's case has really captivated me from the beginning, and just something about her captivated me. So I've been following from the beginning, and been up to Salida several times, and wanted to be there today, tomorrow.
Yeah, I think you speak for much of the world that has been captivated by this story. You showed up and you braved the early morning hours, and you found a seat in the courthouse today. They only allowed 24 people, either press or citizens, to come in and view the hearing in person. Just give me a quick idea of what today was like for you.
A lot of emotions, a lot of different emotions that I wasn't really ready for. I thought it would be very dry cut, because I thought I kind of was ready for this, but I felt sad, I felt angry, I felt, overwhelmed. At times I wanted to jump up and just say, "Now be quiet, don't say that about Suzanne." But I'm just sad, like she had a very...
I think you actually represent everyone out there who was troubled by the news of the affair today that came out. And we talked early in the show for a moment about the fact that we all have three personas in our life. We have a public persona, like we're all putting on here, where we put our best face on and we try to smile and be really engaging. Then we all have this private side of us, and not very many people get to see the private side. But then each of us has this secret side of our life that some people may never know, or only one or two people know about. And in this particular case, we have gotten to see part of Suzanne's secret life. But with all of that said, Gabby, the fact that this happened, does this justify in any way the allegations that Barry's facing of homicide?
It hasn't changed how I feel about what likely happened to Suzanne. I feel, she had a very unhappy marriage. I feel she suffered for a long time. This is what especially got me, as I work in the medical field in mental health, that he was so against medication. And when you have cancer and you go through chemo, and that is a very, very depressing, anxiety-provoking time. And one of the medications she's prescribed, Remeron, very, very common in cancer patients because it stimulates appetite, it helps with sleep, helps with anxiety. So that
Well,
just really,
maybe in another week we can get you back on and share what tomorrow was like for you. Hopefully,
yeah.
you'll be able to get back in. And
Oh, yeah.
I just want to tell you, thank you for taking time. And folks, if you saw the photograph of the of the cat out in front of the Chaffee County Courthouse, Gabby sent that to me last night, and I just enjoyed that so much that we had to put it on. But Gabby, thanks for jumping on with us.
Sure.
I hope you get some rest tonight, and
Oh, yeah.
I hope you have success in dealing with the emotion that I think everyone is feeling. And I want to just reiterate, it doesn't change the elements of homicide, which is what this
It
case
does
is
not.
about. But isn't it
does not.
interesting how quickly they can change the narrative and the emotion by bringing something out and taking it completely off the focus? So we'll get you back
Exactly.
again sometime, Gabby, but thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you
Have
for
a
all
great
that you do.
evening.
You too.
Gabby.
Bye-bye. Bye.
What a sweet person. That was so nice to hear what it's like. And you know what? I think she really does, Skylar, share what all of us feel when we learn these kinds of things. They're kind of gut punches. But again, it does not change the elements of the crime, which is what he's facing. So, JN, I'm just going to tell you, Lauren is so busy tonight. She didn't have time to come on, but we've talked and we'll get her on. So thanks.
Yeah. I think this case is a good lesson for all of us of how important it is to let prosecution, law enforcement do their job, because we see all these little things people can find that can really turn the emotions away from facts, and get us focused on things that aren't facts.
Well, that's a good point. And I think a point that especially those of us that are YouTube creators need to keep in mind is that this is kind of entertainment business from our perspective. I'm sharing what my experience has taught me, but I don't have the inside information that law enforcement has, nor should I have it. I would hope, folks, that if you ever hear anything that you don't call me, that you call law enforcement when you hear something that's going on, because they're the ones that need to put the case together. They're the ones that need to have all the cards hidden that they can bring out at the right time. And you're actually going to hear at 7:00 when we talk about this new case, how we actually have brought together 4 different law enforcement agencies to help on a case that we're going to be talking about. And we're not leading anything. They're leading it, but we brought it all together and basically handed it over. So it'll be interesting.
So, do you think the pen was planted by Barry? Does that show premeditated? If so,
Ella, I don't think so. And I'd love for anyone else, please watch the comments to weigh in. But what I got from the testimony today was that it was Suzanne's pen. Originally, it was intended to see if she could capture Barry involved in some kind of relationship, and so I don't think that is the case. And Karen, thanks for that kind donation too.
I saw this one, Melissa Walker. What did Mike do to get the Nebraska award on his wall?
Can you see that? That's awesome. So believe it or not, folks, when I was young, I actually did police work. And that is for getting the National Police Officer of the Year award. So that was kind of a cool award that I keep up there on my glory wall to remember that I used to be or whatever. I was.
He was cool for 1 year of the 37.
Thanks, Roxanne. That's awesome.
Let's see. If I have missed your super chats, I am so sorry. I can only...
So I don't know what that meant about the pen, but on that timeline while you're finding the next question, I also thought it was
sorry.
I also thought it was kind of interesting that again that ping on Suzanne's phone was 10 miles east of their home at about 4:23 in the morning on Mother's Day. And then Barry said, I left her sleeping at 5:00 in the morning. That to me is really critical and a big hurdle that the defense is going to have to get over, because how did that phone end up over there? Now, some people might argue, and this is where forensics come into play, the triangulation of the cell towers, and we know that cellular traffic is really difficult in that area. There may be a way to somehow say that that ping could have been that far away, but it's really doubtful, especially if it is a device ping and not a triangulated ping. And if that means nothing to you folks, go back to one of our earlier videos where we talk about triangulation and how cell phone data is gathered.
Yeah. Sorry about that little glitch in the matrix I had there. I have a faulty graphics card that resets on itself on my computer. So
thanks,
SS. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's see. Oh, here's one. Thank you, Tyler. Okay, so it says, thank you guys. So Bellaterra, by the way, 10 to Life reminded her viewers today that you, Mike, warned all of us to be prepared for SM to be shown in a negative light.
Annie, thank you so much. I mean, Bellaterra, that's nice that you would remind us. Yeah, we were predicting 2 months ago that there was going to be a bombshell, and it just seems to happen in these kinds of cases. And this sadly was the bombshell. Yeah,
the defense will use anything they can. We didn't predict her to be a bad person. It just always happens.
Yeah.
There's always something. I not only understand why Suzanne was having an affair, but I'm glad she found some happiness during the last 2 years of her life.
Donna Lanai or Lena 1, thank you. I mean, again, I'll tell you what, I'm not judging one way or another. I'm just calling it like it is. And this was just a piece that has certainly created a lot of noise and a lot of distraction. But again, folks, I keep going back. Does it change the elements of murder?
Mike, you're a breath of fresh air these days. Thanks for all the updates, safety tips. Thank you so much, LM.
Thanks, LM. That's really kind of you to say. You know, we really try hard on this channel to edutain, so make it a little bit of fun, have some fun, but educate, but also to just share things that have publicly been vetted. I just don't want to speculate.
Here's an interesting question. Can attorneys ask if the prospective jurors have ever had an affair?
Certainly. Absolutely. And folks, voir dire is a process of asking the jurists, the potential jurists, questions so that they can determine who would be best on the jury for their side of the argument. So defense may want certain kinds of personalities and backgrounds. Prosecution may want someone else, and they're given this opportunity to ask questions in hopes of finding a jurist that is going to help them accomplish their goal.
Will someone give this boy a lozenge?
Me?
I think me.
Oh.
I'll try to mute myself.
We told him he couldn't come out till he's had a COVID test, but he swears it's just a cold.
I can't blame Suzanne. Oh, yeah. Okay. I thought this was the same one. I can't blame Suzanne for the affair. She was trying to find a way out. It's just sad that Barry was so controlling.
Yeah, Deborah, thank you so much for that. Again, folks, this is nothing to do with whether something is right or wrong. That's not, that isn't my place, nor do I have the right to judge any of that. What I'm trying to do is bring up the fact that these things create noise, and this is exactly the kind of thing that the defense will really glom onto and try to make as much distractive noise as they can.
Is there a possibility that Summer, so we're moving on to, I guess, the Summer Wells question, everybody. So just so everyone's aware, this is a separate case from the Suzanne Morphew. Is there a possibility that Summer crawled under somewhere with newborn puppies that would throw off her scent, then died from scrap metal falling above?
Wow. Well, Mary B., I mean, I think anything's possible. So we try to look at what's more probable. And I think that you bring up a really good point that I want to kind of keep reminding us all is we don't know the case like law enforcement knows the case. To this date, I have not heard law enforcement say this was an abduction. I have not heard them say it was a homicide. I have not heard them say that this was a child who wandered off and got lost. or an accident of some kind. What I have heard him say is, we don't know where Summer is, and we're gathering all the information we can. And we gotta keep thinking about that from that perspective. It's an investigation that hasn't been deemed a homicide or a missing person. Well, it is a missing person, or an abduction. And to theorize otherwise is just doing that, theorizing without anything really to back it up. And I just haven't seen anything that makes me ready to shout out one thing or another.
Great.
And that boy, excuse me, that boy in the background is Skylar from the back office here at Profiling Evil.
Here's a Facebook question. We don't get these very often, or at least I don't see them as often. Heather Harmon Frazier. Mike, do you believe it to be true that Barry was not having an affair at the time of Suzanne going missing?
Boy, I don't know. There are a lot of people speculating out there, and there are a lot of initials that keep popping up that people talk about. What we heard today was both sides acknowledging that they didn't have any proof that Barry was having an affair. Now, whether that is the assumption of someone that was tweeting it out, because keep in mind, folks, this to me is the downside of the judge not allowing this case to be shown publicly, is we have to rely on whoever is tweeting out information from that courtroom and their perception. And today we saw how off that perception can be. One individual tweeted, if you remember, Skylar, they tweeted that Barry held a gun to Suzanne's head in a closet. At the same time, another news agency tweeted that Barry held the gun to his own head in the closet. Earlier, we had one news agency that said Suzanne's helmet was found 8.4 miles from the location that the bike was recovered. And then another news reporter at the same time said Suzanne's helmet was found 0.84 miles from the site. So, we might be getting tweets, but that doesn't mean that we have the communication occurring that really is giving us the straight scoop. So until we see the court transcripts, we may not know. We just have interpretations of what people think they heard.
Yeah.
Is that a bunch of rambling? I don't know.
Yeah. Questions from S. Hoffner again, or S. Schaffner. Anyway, is there anything new with the Summer Wells case?
Yeah, S. Schaffner, I think there's a lot new happening with this case, and I think it's an incredibly dynamic and fluid case. We continue to follow it every single day at Profiling Evil. I think the sheriff coming out and declaring that the psychics are not being used was a big discussion item that incensed a lot of people. And again, I'm not arguing one way or another. I put out a video about that, and it would invite you to go back and see that. But then they also reminded us that there are people out there scamming and saying, we are working and we're going to give information to law enforcement. We're doing something with law enforcement. And law enforcement made it so clear they are not collaborating with anyone other than professional law enforcement on that particular case. Those are really big points to me that we need to just kind of keep in mind. And then we got to remember, they keep saying the red Toyota or maroon Toyota mid-size truck has not been located yet. We in the social media world have such a responsibility to put out information that is credible and backed up, because apparently that was something. In fact, I went out and looked on the web and found people saying Summer was recovered yesterday. When I clicked on the link, it took me to an advertisement. So, we got to just remember what we're dealing with here, but keep remembering YouTubers aren't cops. The police have this information and they're doing their thing, and they're the ones that we should be giving our intel to if we think we have something important.
Yeah. Sorry, usually my wife and kids don't barge in while I'm in the middle of this, but they did, and I was freaking out a little, but they brought me some lozenges. So they're kid suckers. So they must have heard what you guys said.
Hey,
all right,
everybody who's jumped on, I said it earlier. I mean, we're talking about Suzanne Morphew and the hearing today for Barry Morphew, the preliminary hearing and presumption great hearing. We are talking about Summer Wells. We can talk about Tristan Bailey, Mai Miliete, anything you want to talk about, we're going to talk about. But at 7 o'clock, we're going to have our party crashed by the Adventures with Purpose guys. And then we're going to jump over to a new live and talk with them about a little project we're going to be working on for the next couple of days with local law enforcement. And it will be pretty darn exciting. But please subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed. We'd love to have you join up with us. So
great. So Stace on the case, he could blame blood on the bike accident or Kat if he did something to her in the creek. And Tyson saw him come up wet and breathing heavy.
So when Tyson saw him, it was long after the bike was there. And he saw him searching in the area, if you remember the video. And we had Tyson on Profiling Evil right when that happened. That was all him reciting what the narrative was. But what we do know from law enforcement today and testimony that came out today was that there was nothing down in the bottom of where that bike was recovered that would suggest that Suzanne was ever there. There were no scuff marks. It was a steep incline. There would have been marks of her trying to climb up the hill if she did try to climb up. If the cougar that he said, the mountain lion, would have taken her, there would have been drag marks. And let me tell you what, folks, seeing what mountain lions can do to a deer, I can tell you that it would not be a pristine crime scene. It would be an ugly mess. And then we also had the Mountain Lion Foundation people on saying how far that mountain lion would have traveled. But all in all, everything about that bike, it just makes it look staged, including the fact that it was pointed downhill and looked like it just rolled down the hill from what was released in testimony today.
So I just turned on Adventures with Purpose live stream. It's kind of weird to see a familiar neighborhood on their live stream right now.
Oh,
but they might be making their way down to you here pretty soon. So let's get a few questions in before that happens.
Yeah, because they certainly will be disruptive. They have no decorum, and they will barge right in, which will be really
over the second they're in. So and you know, we'll do these Ask Mike Anythings more often as well. There's a lot going on in the world right now of crime. Was there chlorine found in the hotel room?
Interesting. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, there was the smell of chlorine or bleach. Now, if you remember, the hotel said that smell was not consistent with the chemicals they use in the pool. But I can't remember all the specifics on that. I'd have to go back and look at our notes.
All right. They are making the descent into the backyard.
Great.
So I'm just warning everybody that Ask Mike Anything is probably coming to an end, but please stick around. There is some incredible stuff happening. You'll go to our YouTube page. There's another live available. The live link is also in the description below. But you will not want to miss what we've got going on in the next few days.
Please join us. We're going to be going as soon as we end tonight's live with choir practice. We're going to be coming right in within 5 minutes. So please go to that link. It's down below. You can get it below, or just go to our page and jump back on. And folks, if you would subscribe, and that way you'll be notified on it. But you'll want to hear. I think this is going to be pretty interesting, and we've invested a lot in this, and I think that it's going to be something that you might want to just learn more about. So with that, I can hear them wandering down my hall like
I'm watching
thieves.
them.
Yeah, they're like thieves walking into my business. So, and they got Sammy the adventure man. Come around here. I got a hug.
Good to see you, man.
How are you?
So right now, the link is in the description.
Look down here.
Where we at?
Where's
your camera?
Well, it's right there.
Well, hey guys.
Holy cow, you got a whole batch of really
a whole crew of people.
Rough-looking guys.
Yeah,
it looks like it's like it's a chain gang working off hours or something.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Skylar, let's move over to the channel. Folks, thanks so much for your support of Profiling Evil. And we're going to jump on. We're going to have a discussion and see what we can share for tonight. We're going to then meet tomorrow night. I'm doing Court TV tomorrow night. And then Wednesday night, we'll meet again and talk about what we're doing. So from all of us at Profiling Evil, thanks so much. And keep watching. Tomorrow's day 2 in the Suzanne Morphew case. So thank you, everybody. Good night.
Good night.